Hi everyone, I am Ryan Phelps. I am your C and Carb. I own the company Creative Riot, and we are an instructional design company that wants to make instructional design and course creation accessible to all. I hold a degree in psychology and neuroscience psychology, and I am so happy to speak at DEF CON today.
Thanks, Ryan. I am Jillian Simons. I am an associate at the law firm of King and Spalding in Atlanta, Georgia, and the founder and CEO of Aurora, which is a wellness tech-enabled platform. The law practice that I focus on is cybersecurity, privacy, and other data protection related matters from both the corporate and consumer perspective. I work with both for-profit and nonprofit healthcare and health tech entities, helping them to assess risk and identify appropriate safeguards and mitigation strategies. Prior to becoming an attorney, I served 8 years in the Navy on active duty. I was a system engineer and admin and a cybersecurity analyst focusing on perimeter defenses, as well as a cyber intelligence analyst tracking threat actors, their sources of funding, and potential targets for new exploits.
Greetings, LaTica Hammond here, co-founder of the Raylan Group, and here at DEF CON in partnership with CARB. I am currently a cybersecurity professional with an educational background in healthcare as well as cybersecurity. I'm also a Navy veteran, and I've worked extensively in the space intelligence, submarine, and policy sectors. Very happy to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Lola Ajayi. I am the CEO and founder of Bar Lodge LLC. That's where the B in Carb Collective came from. A little bit about me and my background. I have over 15 years of experience that combines my love and passion for helping others through science, as well as the business aspect of things that I picked up along the way. I hold a dual master's degree from the Johns Hopkins University, Master's of Science in Biotechnology, as well as my Master's of Business Administration. And most recently have been providing consultation for cutting edge technology that requires U.S. Food and Drug Administration approval. I'm really happy to be here, looking forward to the talk that we're going to provide, as well as learning from others within the room and also those online. In this digital age, where technological advancements are the driving force behind progress, the question of security and privacy has become more pressing than ever. As new technologies emerge, the challenges and risks associated with safeguarding our data and personal information multiply. The emerging technology that we'll be focusing on today is XR, or extended reality, and more specifically AR and VR, augmented and virtual reality. These are used in patient healthcare settings. But before we explore the challenges in depth, let's begin by understanding why security and privacy by design is paramount in healthcare technology. Medical devices play a critical role in saving lives and improving patient care. However, they can also be vulnerable to malicious attacks, unauthorized access, and data breaches. Therefore, implementing security measures from the design stage ensures the protection of patient data while contributing to overall system reliability.
So what are we covering? In our presentation, as Lola noted, we're covering XR technology. We will start with an understanding of what the data protection risks are related to XR platforms, devices, and applications. Then we will discuss what privacy and security by design principles are and how they can be embedded at the start, as well as why it's critical for us to be proactive in this space. We'll also take a look at what happens when we don't. Then we will cover what's already being done in this space to mitigate these risks and what more needs to be done as we look ahead. Because this is a virtual presentation, we invite you to participate with us by sharing your thoughts as we go along. This QR code will take you to a site where you can anonymously share your thoughts on the topics. As we go along, you will see question prompts on the screen, which is signaling a question on the survey. We will compile all virtual as well as in-person feedback and post it to our Carb Collective site, which we will cover at the end of the session.
Privacy as the default ensures that users don't have to worry about their privacy settings. Key components include collection limitation, data minimization, use, retention, and disclosure limitation. Privacy and user experience are not conflicting goals. Privacy by design takes a positive-sum approach, enhancing both functionality and privacy, gaining a competitive advantage in a privacy-conscious market. From data collection to destruction, privacy by design requires comprehensive security measures. This interdisciplinary approach leverages best practices to protect data, maintain confidentiality, and ensure accessibility throughout its time with the company. Openness and transparency with users are essential. It's time to prioritize privacy and build products and services that protect user data.
So why are we talking about XR when it's not even the hot emerging technology? That's AI and everything that falls into its wheelhouse. I think we first need to go back a few years, and what we're looking at on the screen here is Gartner's hype cycle for emerging technology. And you see that this is dated as of August 2018. Look here in the lower middle section, and you'll see right there leading its pack on its way to mediocrity is augmented reality. You'll see the little icon there. It's followed a little bit further back up that cliff there by mixed reality, which was experiencing a sharp decline from its peak of, quote, inflated expectations. What Gartner wanted to represent here is that the XR types of platforms, devices, and applications were on their way to, as they call it, the plateau of productivity, similar to Microsoft Office, email, smartphones. It was expected to just become a little boring. Now you'll see that it's 2022, and we're looking at, once again, Gartner's same hype cycle. And if you look down again at the trough of disillusionment, you'll notice that augmented reality is gone and mixed reality is gone too. So where did they go? Well, look back towards the inception of the innovation trigger, and what you'll notice here is that you actually have various forms of XR. You'll see the individual use cases that have now restarted a new cycle of innovation. For example, the metaverse. Gartner even projects that it has more than 10 years before it plateaus or becomes obsolete. You see also that we have digital humans, which is, as you know, avatars, and we see a lot of those these days. Also holographic celebrities. We had the Tupac holographic cameo at a festival, and I believe we'll soon have Whitney Houston in airports. As you can see, something happened between 2018 and 2022. This something then triggered XR to have an innovation cycle reset, and also to have XR be subdivided into individual use cases instead of just grouping them all together by the overarching type of extended reality. Well, what was that trigger? We're going to talk a bit later about what we believe that trigger to be.
So, what exactly is XR? Well, let me break it down for you. XR stands for Extended Reality, which is a cutting edge technology that seamlessly merges virtual, augmented, and mixed realities to offer an immersive, mind blowing experience like never before. But for the purposes of this talk, we will focus on AR and VR. So, let's start with virtual reality, commonly known as VR. What this does is it takes users into an entirely simulated environment by completely immersing them in a digital world. Now, augmented reality, also abbreviated as AR, instead of transporting you to a whole new world, AR actually overlays digital information onto the real world. So think of it as enhancing your immediate surroundings.
What are the data protection risks of XR for general use? First, let's start by acknowledging that XR is atypical from other emerging technologies. be it the platform, the application, or even the device itself, which is typically a headset, glasses, or access through a mobile device. These are all quite unusual. And this is because in order to create the immersive experience, the technology requires a ton of rich data that is constantly being transmitted to and from the devices. This includes some common personal information data elements like your geolocation data, but what is more unusual are the data elements like your bodily movement, biometrics, eye movement, and gaze tracking by another name. Layering in the stereo camera arrays, the LiDAR sensing to draw the boundary line, the directional microphones for the immersive experience. This sensing is what in parts then drives the SLAM algorithms, and those are what the actual devices use to position themselves within the space, within the environment, and render the actual virtual reality or augmented reality experience from the perspective of the user. There is just so much rich personal data about the individuals. And again, this is what makes it highly unlike other emerging technologies. And that's because those are typically tracking you just on a two-dimensional plane. So taken as a whole, considering the scale of the data and also considering the unusual scope of the data that's being collected, processed, stored, and shared, this makes this a very atypical platform. Lola will later discuss privacy by design and security by design. And we have to first start with the acknowledgement that this, again, is not analogous to other emerging technologies. So when we think about privacy and security, we have to start with this foundation. And that is because the goal of this technology is for its users to be immersed in a three-dimensional space. So apart from your standard security and privacy concerns, now XR then, therefore, introduces additional risks. The most salient is the concern about capturing bystander data within range of the LiDAR sensors. Again, that's what's helping the user to draw the boundary and then to remain within the boundary. And that can allow the technology to capture the bystander's likeness. When factoring in the intersection of other emergent technologies, such as machine learning and computer vision, it is now foreseeable that there is a possibility for XR and, again, other technologies to segment, classify, and therefore track these bystanders. Again, these are not users, but folks who just happen to be within the vicinity of the actual XR user. It could also track their bystanders' movements. And as LaTica will discuss later, we want to avoid creating situations where bystander data will allow the ability to pseudo-anonymously identify and track nearby bystanders whenever they just happen to be within the vicinity of an XR user. Even more so, what we really want to avoid here is the ability for entities to combine this data with any publicly accessible or available data that's online or on social media where we have that particular bystander's picture or even video captured. Combining that data then won't even allow that bystander to be anonymous at all.
Augmented reality and virtual reality applications have gradually permeated the healthcare industry, but they are gaining traction and proving to be valuable tools. XR continues to enhance patient treatment, medical education, and interventions while improving the overall healthcare experience. We can point to many real-world examples that demonstrate the practical applications of these technologies within the healthcare sector across several treatment domains. There are many examples of XR apps used in healthcare for patient treatment or medical device management. We'll just cover a few here. XR Health is a company that provides VR-based therapy for a variety of conditions, including, but not limited to, autism spectrum disorder, chronic pain and anxiety, or depression. XR Health collects PII data such as name, email address, or date of birth from its users. This data is used to create user profiles as well as track user progress. Surgical Theater is a VR-based platform that allows surgeons to practice procedures in a simulated environment. This can help them to improve their skills and prepare for real-world surgeries. Surgical Theater also collects PII data, such as the user's name, medical history, and insurance information. This data is used to create a simulated patient for the user to practice on.
So how do we mitigate these privacy and security risks? By baking in privacy by design and security by design from the start. First things first, let's break down the basics. For those new to the concept, privacy by design is essentially an approach where privacy controls are incorporated into the very design of a product or system rather than being added as an afterthought. It ensures that user privacy is considered right from the beginning, making it an integral part of the development process. Security by design follows a similar principle but focuses specifically on security measures. It means incorporating security features and protocols into the design of a product, app, or system to ensure the highest level of protection against cyber threats. The main difference between privacy by design and security by design is that privacy by design focuses on protecting the privacy of individuals, while security by design focuses on protecting the security of the system as a whole. However, the two frameworks are complementary and that they can be used together to create systems that are both secure and private. The first principle emphasizes being proactive rather than reactive to privacy concerns. Organizations should anticipate and address potential privacy risks upfront, considering all their data processing activities. By integrating privacy from the start, companies can avoid costly retroactive fixes, instilling trust and enhancing their reputation among users. Privacy as the default setting. Privacy as a default setting signifies that privacy settings should be automatically configured to provide maximum protection for individuals. This principle empowers users by eliminating the need for constant adjustment and ensures their privacy is maintained without requiring complex setup processes. Organizations should prioritize privacy settings that respect users' choices and enable them to easily customize their privacy preferences. Embedding privacy into the core design of products or systems is a third principle. It encourages organizations to weave privacy measures seamlessly into the architecture, functionality, and purpose of their offerings. By considering privacy concerns alongside other design aspects, organizations can ensure their products are privacy enhancing rather than privacy intrusive. Full functionality, positive sum, not zero sum. And this is the fourth principle. It highlights the importance of achieving full functionality while maintaining privacy. Striking a balance where privacy measures do not hinder the intended functionality is crucial. Organizations must overcome the myth that privacy and functionality are mutually exclusive. In fact, privacy measures can enhance the overall user experience, creating a win-win situation for both users and organizations. Privacy by design also emphasizes end-to-end security and providing comprehensive protection throughout the entire information lifecycle. From data collection to storage, processing, and disposal, organizations must implement robust security measures at each stage. This principle safeguards against unauthorized access, data breaches, and potential privacy violations, ensuring ongoing trust and confidence in the organization's practices. The sixth principle focuses on visibility and transparency, necessitating that organizations remain open and clear about their privacy practices. Individuals have the right to know how their personal information is collected, used, and shared. By fostering transparency, organizations can empower individuals to make informed decisions about their privacy and establish a relationship based on trust and accountability. Lastly, respect for user privacy represents the pinnacle of privacy by design principles. This principle emphasizes the importance of respecting the privacy of individuals and fostering a culture that values privacy as a fundamental human right. Organizations should prioritize the protection of personal information, obtaining user consent, and minimizing data collection to only what is necessary for the intended purpose. So for security by design principle, this approach involves integrating security considerations into every stage of the design and development process, rather than addressing security as an afterthought. By adopting this proactive mindset, organizations can create products and systems that are inherently secure from the very beginning. One of the key principles of security by design is emphasizing prevention over remediation. In other words, it is far better to prevent a security breach or vulnerability than try to fix it once the damage is done. By considering potential threats and risk early on, organizations can build robust security measures into their products or systems. This may include encryption, strong authentication protocols, and secure coding practices, among others. Another core principle of security by design is the incorporation of layered defense mechanisms. Imagine having multiple lines of defense protecting your valuable assets. Layering security measures increases the overall resilience and effectiveness of a system. For instance, combining firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and encryption creates a multi-tiered fortress against potential threats, ensuring greater security. Security by design principles also embrace a user-centric approach. Although robust security measures might seem complex, they should never compromise the user experience. Balancing usability and security is crucial to fostering trust and adoption. Organizations need to find the right balance between implementing stringent security protocols while ensuring that users can easily navigate and interact with their products or systems. Security by design involves a continuous monitoring and adaptation process. Threat landscapes are constantly evolving, and security measures need to keep in pace. Through ongoing monitoring, organizations can detect vulnerabilities, identify potential breaches, and take necessary actions to address emerging risks. By staying proactive, they can effectively safeguard against both known and emerging threats. Accountability and transparency are additional principles of security by design. Organizations must take responsibility for the security of their products, systems, or services. Being transparent about security practices builds trust with customers, partners, and stakeholders. Clear communication regarding privacy policies, data handling, and security protocols demonstrates a commitment to protecting user information. Lastly, security by design principles encourage a collaborative approach. Combining the expertise of various stakeholders, including developers, security professionals, and end users is essential for ensuring robust security. By involving all relevant parties in the design and development process, organizations can leverage their diverse perspectives to identify potential vulnerabilities and create effective security solutions. So how do we implement privacy and security by design? Through design thinking principles implemented at the onset at the idea phase. Well, what is a design thinking principle? A design thinking principle is a North Star that guides all decisions made as part of the building, execution, implementation, iteration process of any software, device, or platform. This is a human-centric approach to determine the guardrails of a project based on the use case and experience of the stakeholders. In this case, the design principles would apply to the devices, such as the headset or the glasses, platforms as a whole, such as the metaverse, and the individual applications. What other organizations' design principles are in place? Well, there are 3 key XR organizations, each of whom have published frameworks and guidance in an attempt to develop standards and best practices in the absence of more comprehensive regulation. The first one being the XR Association, and they have design principles. Just to highlight some of the few, privacy by design is the goal. You control what data you share. Privacy policies should be clear. Bystanders have a right to privacy too. Children are a collective responsibility. Second organization, the XR Safety Initiative,
has a privacy and safety framework with emphasis on prevention of consumer rights over data and not protection, identity protection and anonymization, secure and resilient platforms. And the last is the Cyber XR Coalition, included in its immersive standards for accessibility, ethics, inclusion, and safety. Avoid user participation that reinforces bias and discrimination based on collected data, which has downstream harm as this data is aggregated and fed into databases for other uses. Each of these frameworks really focus on protecting the consumer and user data. XR Association focuses more on privacy, while the others really focus on safety and security. What about the government? Do they have any regulatory oversight or governance structures in place? Although there is currently no dedicated U.S. government oversight agency for XR technology, there are various existing regulations such as consumer protection, privacy, and safety standards that do apply to XR tech. As the industry continues to expand, it is likely that governments worldwide will monitor and adapt their oversight strategies accordingly. For example, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration recognizes the importance of safeguarding this sensitive information, and the agency has developed a set of policies and guidance governing the protection of patient data in the healthcare industry. These regulations aim to strike a balance between facilitating effective medical treatments while preserving patients' privacy rights. And to ensure patient data security, the FDA aligns its policies with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, aka HIPAA. And this is a national standards for protection, use, and disclosure of individually identified health information. So by incorporating HIPAA requirements into its regulations, the FDA consolidates patient data protection measures across the healthcare industry. XR technology used in healthcare is considered a medical device, and before medical devices can be made available to the public, they undergo FDA review and evaluation. During this pre-market phase, patient data protection considerations are essential. The FDA requires device manufacturers to demonstrate that adequate safeguards are in place to protect patient information from unauthorized access or breaches. Robust security protocols and measures must be implemented, including encryption, secure storage, and access controls. Once medical devices are on the market, the FDA maintains its commitment to patient data protection through post-market surveillance. The agency encourages manufacturers to establish systems to monitor and address any potential security vulnerabilities that may emerge after the device is in use. Any incidents or breaches affecting patient data should be promptly reported to the agency, ensuring transparency and prompt action. As XR technology continues to advance and become even more integrated into our lives, the question of government oversight becomes increasingly significant. The potential impact of XR technology on mental health, cybersecurity, and societal norms may require further examination and potentially regulatory intervention. The FDA's commitment to patient data protection is crystal clear. Through policies, guidance, and collaboration with other agencies, the agency strives to strike a delicate balance between facilitative, innovative healthcare solutions while safeguarding patient privacies. Whether it's during the pre-market evaluation phase, post-market surveillance, or fostering transparency, the FDA continues to lead the way in ensuring patient data remains adequately protected.
Now let's look at a few other ways to discern some design principles for privacy and security through government regulations and guidance. So next we'll talk about the FTC guidance for health applications. In December 2022, the FTC published a best practices guide for mobile health app developers, and they focused on minimizing data, limiting access and permissions, authentication, the mobile ecosystem, and most importantly, security by design. And if you think about it, the data minimization and the access controls, those are actually really privacy by design principles. So this is just another example of how we can glean some additional principles through indirect references. So the next one that we want to look at is the HIPAA security rule and privacy rule. And as background, the privacy rule sets the standards for, among other things, who may have access to protected health information. The security rule is a little bit different because it sets the standards for ensuring that only those who should have access to electronic protected health information will actually have that access. The security rule is then divided into three sets of standards: administrative, physical, and technical safeguards. The technical safeguards are either addressable or required, and they can include things such as access controls, system auditing, data integrity controls, and encryption. And we can consider these safeguards to be their own design principles. So then let's look at access controls, which we have here the language from the HIPAA security rule on the screen. And if you look at the bolded part where it says that essentially the policies and procedures for maintaining the electronic protected health information should only allow access only to those persons or programs that have been granted access rights. And so what that really is aligning with the principle of least privilege, which is in and of itself a security by design concept, and that looks to minimize vulnerabilities.
Imagine a hypothetical scenario where a user plays a VR game, where data about his body movement are processed and collected without his knowledge. A month after playing the game, the user was turned down for a new life insurance policy. Without his knowledge, his data had been sold to an insurance company who, having seen the tracking data from the game, concluded it to reveal behavioral movement patterns often seen among people in the very early stages of dementia.
So we've now looked at what other entities and associations, as well as what government regulators are using as design principles to encourage and implement security by design and privacy by design. And we want to know, what are your thoughts? What design principles do you propose? And what's more important, privacy by design or security by design principles? And lastly, is HIPAA sufficient? Looking ahead, we are heading towards a convergence of XR development, the healthcare industry's embrace of emerging technologies, and broadened governance, oversight, and regulation. So looking at this graphic, consider the x-axis to be a time continuum that's moving linearly from left to right. We see the continuous development and expanded use of XR platforms, devices, and applications going across in purple there at a fairly slow but steady pace. And as Lola discussed earlier, we have a flagpole on the left marking the 1960s launch of modern VR. And then we also see a second flagpole, and that's for the COVID-19 pandemic. And as you can see here, the pandemic accelerated the healthcare industry's adoption of emerging technology, and in this instance, XR specifically. At the start of the presentation, we discussed Gartner's Emerging Tech Trends analysis, and there was a big change between 2018 and 2022. In 2018, we saw that augmented reality in particular was on its way to the death of innovation. It was quickly headed towards the plateau of productivity and potentially as mundane as office products. In 2022, it disappeared from the trough of innovation. It moved backwards to the beginning stages of innovation, but this time it was separated into individual use cases. Well, what caused these major changes? The pandemic.
Cutting through red tape and navigating regulations can often slow down the adoption of new technologies. Company A may have an incredible innovation, but regulatory bodies need time to thoroughly evaluate its safety and effectiveness. The stakes are even more high when it comes to health innovation. There needs to be rigorous testing and trials to ensure patient safety, and that does take time. Rushing the integration of emerging technologies could have severe consequences for patients and tarnish the trust that has been built in the healthcare system. The healthcare system is massive, with various stakeholders, each with their own priorities. Hospitals, for example, face financial challenges when it comes to adopting new technologies, and hospitals often operate on tight budgets, and investing in new technologies can be costly. From purchasing the actual equipment to training staff, it is an intensive process. Additionally, healthcare providers face reimbursement challenges as not all medical innovations are immediately covered by insurance or government programs, which also deters their adoption. Slowly but surely, though, the healthcare system is embracing emerging technologies. Electronic health records, EHRs, telemedicine, wearable technology, and artificial intelligence are revolutionizing patient care. So, the healthcare, although slowly, is heading towards a convergence with XR. Then COVID-19 happened and things quickly accelerated, like someone put their foot on the gas. For example, telemedicine, which had been around pre pandemic, was more widely adopted during the pandemic, partially due to the Drug Enforcement Agency's exception to the HATE Act. On March 16, 2020, the DEA published guidance relating to the COVID 19 public health emergency, including the ability to prescribe controlled substances via telemedicine without a prior in person exam. This public health emergency exemption was an exception to the HATE Act's requirement to conduct an in person exam before prescribing controlled substances via telemedicine, which now leads us to number 3, governance. Governance, the third major point of convergence, is a broadening scope of governance, oversight, and regulation. So, with governance and oversight, we'll start with that. In the same vein, corporate boards and other key stakeholders are holding companies accountable to ESG metrics. Gone are the days of exclusively focusing on the bottom line and quarterly shareholder values. So, corporate oversight and governance is widening as well. And then when we look at regulation, in the healthcare industry, we typically focused on HIPAA as discussed earlier, and also as noted, HIPAA applied to covered entities, which created a gray space for other entities dealing with sensitive consumer or patient data. We didn't even have domestic breach notification laws until California's went into effect in 2003, which was initially just focused on identity theft. But now we're seeing regulators widening their scope of applicability. We have biometric laws, IoT laws, and others that LaTica will touch on shortly. So the government is moving away from such a narrow focus as HIPAA covered entities. They're rapidly approaching a point of convergence. And all of this together, all of this is leading to the point of convergence where XR meets health tech meets governance.
Along with asking you all, based on your professional and consumer experiences, what you think some solutions or action items would be for protecting data and privacy, we will recommend a few here for you to think on. The Illinois Biometric Information Privacy Act ensures that individuals are in control of their own biometric data. The law considers biometric to be retina or iris scans, fingerprints, voice prints, hand scans, facial geometry, DNA, and other unique biological information. Now, the law prohibits private companies from collecting these things unless they do 3 things. First being, inform the person in writing of what data is being collected or stored. An example of this would be fingerprinting or capturing eye movement in a VR headset. Second thing, inform the person in writing of the specific purpose and length of time for which the data will be collected, stored, and used. An example of this would be, let's say, disclosing that a fingerprint is stored for ease of logging into an AR app and only stored for a duration of 1 year. Third thing, obtaining the person's written consent. An example of this would be if the user were to sign their name before sharing their fingerprint for use by an AR app. California and Oregon have both passed IoT statutes. California's 2020 IoT data security law titled The Security of Connected Devices, sets the standard that all connected devices need to include security measures for authentication, not only devices that handle personal information. The law applies to anyone who manufactures or contracts with others to manufacture on its behalf connected devices that are sold or offered for sale in California. Now, the law defines connected device as any device or other physical object that is capable of connecting to the internet either directly or indirectly, and that is assigned an Internet Protocol address or Bluetooth address. Now, notably, this California law is not limited to consumer devices. The definition of connected device appears broad enough to cover even devices intended for industrial or other B2B purposes. Now, Oregon's IoT law was modeled after California's and also came into effect in 2020. However, it diverges in its definition of connected devices to only include those devices that are used primarily for personal, family, or household purposes. Both California and Oregon laws require that connected devices be equipped with reasonable security features. According to both, the reasonable security features should be appropriate for the nature and function of the device, appropriate for the information the device collects, contains, or transmits, and designed to protect the device and any information contained therein from unauthorized access, destruction, use, modification, or disclosure. Now, both states specify that a reasonable security feature may consist of a means for authentication from outside a local area network that has the following features. Two things. One, pre-programmed password, which is unique to each device manufacturer. Or two, the device contains a security feature that requires a user to create a new means of authentication before accessing it for the first time. Congresswoman Suzanne DelBene from Washington introduced the Information Transparency and Personal Data Control Act. This legislation ensures the most sensitive personal information, including financial, health, genetic, biometric, geolocation, sexual orientation, citizenship and immigration status, social security numbers, religious beliefs, and information pertaining to children under 13 years of age is kept safe. Some key elements of this bill include four things. One, opt-in. The opt-in element of this bill allows users to opt in before companies can use their most sensitive private information in any ways they may not expect. Another, disclosure. The disclosure element of this bill increases transparency by requiring companies to disclose if and with whom personal information will be shared and the purpose of sharing the information. Third element, plain English. This element requires companies to provide their privacy policies in plain English so that we can all know what they're talking about, right? Fourth thing, audits. This legislation establishes strong privacy hygiene by requiring companies to submit privacy audits every 2 years from a neutral third party.
XR is an emerging technology that has transcended entertainment and gaming, manifesting itself in diverse fields such as healthcare, education, training, and even design and engineering. It's a game changer. And in the health industry, we have highlighted how XR has been so beneficial to allow medical professionals to simulate complex surgeries and even providing hands-on training without risk. But as with any technology, XR also presents its fair share of challenges, from the complexity of hardware requirements to the ethical considerations associated with the data privacy and addiction concerns. The XR landscape demands constant research and development to ensure a safe and inclusive future.
Moving forward, regardless of the use of AR or VR technology, Appropriate safeguards need to be embedded as a design principle in the building phase in order to ensure maximum protection of our data, especially with patients where PII and PHI are of a concern. We will upload findings and comments from the virtual and live participants in the coming days. Thank you everyone for joining us and have a great day.